Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Lefford, who is a professional coach specializing in working with military veterans who are transitioning into civilian life. Lefford, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here, Mike.
Well, having spoken with you quite a few times and watching you on social media, I think we could spend about 45 minutes for me just reading your bio and your background. So let's skip right into just going into the bird's eye view with a 31-year military veteran. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of what has brought you to this point in your life and why your heart and passion is for helping veterans transitioning into civilian life.
All right. Well, thank you for this opportunity. As you said, I spent 31 years in the United States Air Force, and I retired as the command chief of the 20th Fighter Wing. For the folks that aren't in the military, that's the senior enlisted advisor for 5,000 airmen and about 22,000 people that are family members. That was my job. What got me into this field is I've been a mental health professional since the early 90s. And one of my jobs was working with active duty military, and many of those people were struggling based on transition and deployments and moving in and out of the military. And I had a special place in my heart to try to help them because I actually lost friends in the military due to suicide and PTSD and depression and anxiety, and I wanted to help. And so when I got out of the military, I worked as a program director for a geriatric mental health facility, and I saw more people struggling with mental illness years after transitioning out of the military, and it didn't seem like they were getting the help that they needed, and I needed to do something.
There's a lot of things that I think of when you mention that, one of which is when you think of the word transition and your time working with the men and women that served. There's, in my opinion, and I'm not military, but I would suspect that this is an accurate statement. There's a lot of incidences and times that you would use the word transition when it's not even coming out of the military. So I would suspect someone is being deployed. Well, they're transitioning from being in the United States to being deployed somewhere overseas. And then coming back is a transition. And then, of course, when you are transitioning from military life to civilian life, did you see different stages like that? And then there's different ways that people need to be supported and encouraged, right?
Right, definitely. When you look at transitioning from anything, I mean, you got transitioning from stateside to overseas, as you said, overseas back. Transitioning back to family. In 2005, I remember deploying to Kirkuk, Iraq, and I was there for about 6 months. Transitioning back home from a war zone back into my family lifestyle where my wife and children have lived their life without me, and me transitioning back in, that was traumatic for them and me. So there are many different types of transitions that could cause issues if you're not properly prepared for it, Mike.
And I know that we're not, you weren't scripting that response, but a couple words jumped out at me. It's almost like you were setting the stage for me to ask the next question, and you're not. But it really is interesting that you said properly prepared, because if these men and women that are being in these times of transition, in active duty or transitioning to civilian life, if you do not properly prepare mentally, like, here's what you should expect. And it might be bad. Let me tell you, it might be bad when this or this or this comes up. But sometimes being prepped and briefed on that ahead of time is a major part of the battle, I would suspect. So having someone that has been there and done that, like yourself, and that can work with someone and help prepare them and work with them before, during, and after, I would suspect is a huge, huge opportunity.
I actually think that's probably the number one thing that a person can do, or a leader can do for their people, because think about it. It's a big part of resiliency is understanding and expectation management.
Yeah.
If you deploy and you expect everything to be rainbows and unicorns and it's not, that's going to be a problem. But if you know when you go it's going to be difficult, it's going to be tough, you're going to be gone for a certain amount of time, then you can prepare yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Coming back home, understanding that when you get back, your family's been doing well enough without you. They love you. They don't necessarily need you for day to day. Understanding that you have to integrate back into that family unit again, that is what helps with resilience. Understanding what you're getting into, and having somebody there that can come alongside you and walk along that path, that's very helpful. Mike, I will promise you this. I've seen domestic violence, I've seen divorce, I've seen alcoholism and all kind of things strictly based on people coming back into the household, not expecting what they receive when they get there.
But yet, if you could hit rewind powerful in life, like remember that movie? I think Jim Carrey was in it called Click, and he had this special remote control, and you could rewind. So if you could rewind in life some of those situations you're thinking of there, and go back and say, okay, hold up. I want you to prepare for the next 90 days of your life in this, civilian life or transition, and here's what to expect, and here's what you need to be doing. When this happens, I want you to be thinking, okay, now stop. I want you to count to 5. I want you to think about, what's the worst that could happen. All these things. Boy, it's that mindset, and it really does get to the point where it sounds cliche to say mindset and be strong and fortitude, but you can't get past it. It's setting those expectations and then planning on how your responses need to be, not reactions.
Exactly. I think this is what I think, Mike, just what you said. If we can get people to understand what you just said, we can save lives. There's a lot of numbers. You hear from 20 to 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Then 55% of the population that deploy, whether it's policemen, whether it's military, and I know we're talking about military, but policemen, first responders, and all that are dealing with divorce or have been divorced. Much of that is because there's poor expectation. They've not planned where they can respond versus react. If we could get in front of that and do what you just said, we could save lives and marriages, my friend. It would change the world.
It's not even like I think we're talking about something that's bigger than just this topic. Because when you say the word save lives, saving a life is pretty major. It's not we can make your car run more fuel efficient. We can make your you can run a faster mile and get in better health, and better health is good. It leads to saving a life, but we're talking about saving a life. And it reminds me of that story of the grandpa and the grandson walking down the beach, and he's throwing those, starfish back in. He goes, hey, this is a living creature. Let's save this one and save this one. And the grandson goes, Grandpa, there's millions, it seems like. You can't save them all. What's it matter? You're not going to be able to get them all. He goes, well, it makes a difference to this one right here, and it makes a difference to this one right here. So boy, you can't look at all of the tens of thousands. You've got to look at the one right in front of you. And if you can do some things to save that life, boy, that's got to be a major, major impact.
Well, and I told you this earlier, but it bears repeating. I lost a really good friend not more than a year ago because he did not transition well. He was a high-ranking officer in the United States Air Force. He deployed numerous times. He lost men and women in combat. He did not feel that he can go get help, and so he took it all in himself. He self-medicated. He didn't go to a psychiatrist or psychologist because he felt that he would be kicked out of the military, couldn't deploy, or he was fearful. And he died at 53 years old.
All from building things up in his own mind that may or may not have been the case to begin with.
Exactly. And so it is powerful. So, sometimes people say stuff like save lives in this cliche, but I'm talking about for real saving lives by understanding where that you can get help, that you don't have to do it alone, that you don't have to, suck it up, because that's one of the things that a lot, especially men, women do it too in the military, but this whole suck it up, it's not suck it up. It's be strong enough to go get help.
Because suck it up really just means press it down. Don't let that feeling come out. Press it down, and then it's at some point going to implode, explode, and I think that's what men do, and then that becomes like a ticking time bomb.
Exactly, and let it be known that it's okay. It's okay. To me, in my mind, and I can't take responsibility for this particular thing, except I sometimes feel that I could have pushed harder to go get some help.
Yeah.
But there have been times. I remember there's a great friend of mine that he was probably one of the sharpest non-commissioned officers that I met in my life. And his grandfather, who raised him, because his father was out of the picture, who raised him, took ill. And my friend was devastated, and he came to me. He said, I'm going to make Chief Master Sergeant. I'm going to make Chief Master Sergeant. All I need to do is just stick around, but they want me to go overseas for 4 years. My grandfather needs me. And it was a tough choice.
Yeah.
My friend, we talked, and he made a decision. He said, you know what? This man stood in the gap for me when I couldn't take care of myself. And so I'm going to stay. He decided to get out of the military. He took a civilian job on base. He stayed there with his grandfather, who lived another 2 years. But those 2 years were 2 of the best years of my friend's life, and 2 of the best years of his grandfather's life. And my friend is happy, successful, and he taught his son what it meant to love and to care for the people that care for you.
By walking it out and living it out.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it came from a discussion. It's like, what is your expectation? If you take this assignment, you go off and make chief, but you're not happy. What values a man to earn all the riches in the world but lose his soul, or lose somebody that he loves?
Yep.
But also, can you imagine what he would have felt like if his grandfather would have passed and he was gone?
Yeah. Wow. Nice promotion you got there, but what did you lose in the process?
Yeah. And what did he get from it? He got his grandfather. He got a great life, and he taught his son some lifelong lessons.
And
you know
what?
It was just amazing.
The word jumps out at me when you're describing that as legacy. He was building a legacy in that period of time by giving up something. He took 1 step back and got 10 steps forward.
Exactly. I learned it from Don Green, and Don Green is the executive director of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I was in West Virginia talking to him, and he said, and I said, I want to leave a legacy. He said, leaving a legacy is great, but live your legacy.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that. Live your legacy. And this is what my friend did. Steve did that.
I think we could probably talk about 4.5 more hours on that one phrase, live your legacy. So that is just so powerful. I want to let that settle in and just, just resonate with that. But something has been sticking in my mind here as you've been talking about working with some of these men and women that are in transition. And I wonder, from an outsider looking in, is this an accurate thought process? The man or woman that is in the military that needs help and talking through working with transition, that's only 50% of the equation. The other 50% is their family on the other side. So am I correct in thinking that maybe if someone like yourself was working with, talking through some of these expectations, that those same kind of conversations need to be had with their family members, saying, all right, when Tom comes back, when Betty comes back, let's talk through some of the things that you guys are going to be experiencing and expecting. Here's what you can do to support. Here's if he does something like this, she does something. Don't take it this way. So talk a little bit about how working with the family that they're coming back to is a big piece of this equation for success.
Well, one of the things that we're actually doing is working with families before the deployment. If we're talking about deployment specifically, before the deployment, talk about what's going to go on during that time that they're gone and away, explaining what the man or woman going to be dealing with when they're away, especially like you may not get a phone call for a while, right? So there's expectation management there. Yeah. Okay, this is what's going to happen right before they come back and what they come back. These are some of the things that they've been dealing with. We work with the family members while the deployed spouse is gone. And we're also working with the deployed airmen, because I'm an airman, but we also work with soldiers and sailors also. This is what you can expect when you get back. So there's actually processes that are out there that can be used. One of the concerns that I have is voluntary.
Yeah.
And sometimes people believe, I got this, I don't need help, I don't need assistance. The problem that I see with that, Mike, is you cannot see the picture when you're in the frame.
Yep.
And so awareness of that, these are some things that can happen if you don't get this help. Those are the things that we can do, because it works. It, no kidding, works when people are prepared for what they're going to expect. And a funny thing about it is you can say, you know what, they said this was going to happen. I didn't believe them, but it's happening.
Yep, lo and behold,
and
right here.
Yeah, and that is powerful. So when these things happen, it works. But again, it's one of those things that a lot of people say, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, so I'm not worried about it. Or they can't understand how it can be that bad, because I miss my boo when they're gone. And when they get back, I'm going to want to be with them. It's not always that easy.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the example of your friend that turned out in a negative result. Let's think about, or can you explain a situation or two where it turned out where you were working with a family and working with someone coming back in transition, where they were present and they were following direction and they were realizing that they needed this input and they were following what you said, and then because of some of the steps that they were taking, things just kind of went better than what they could have.
Right. Well, one of the things that, and it makes me, I wish you could see me now. It's just this great, this smile on my face, because this one young airman who was actually planning on sending his family back home, because they came to Shaw Air Force Base and they were struggling. They came from a place that was Florida and they were a lot of fun and all this other stuff. He deployed right before he came over, and they just weren't doing well. They came back here, they were going to give it up. They were just going to say, this is over. And we actually talked about, what do you need in life? What do you need from him? What do you need from her? And this conversation happened separately. You know what I mean? Talk to the wife by herself, talk to the husband by himself, and then brought it back together and actually offered, what would it look like if you guys can have a great relationship after 90 days? And it was just a question, what would it look like if you can have a great relationship after 90 days? And they talked about how good it would be. Mike, just talking about what it would be like, and then say, so how can you make that happen? Just start asking questions and getting them to talk about what they wanted and then how they can get there. Now, I don't know if this is the reason why, but this young man just was awarded one of the 12 outstanding airmen of the Air Force.
Wow. This
is a big deal. He was promoted 3 times. He's going to be a master sergeant. He re-enlisted. Him and his wife have another child, extremely happy. And it's all because of expectation management, going to talk to somebody, talking to each other.
Well, the thing that pops into my mind with that example is like the butterfly effect or the ripple effect. You throw a pebble into the pond and it just ripples outward. It doesn't just impact right where the pebble landed. So you were working with mindset and expectations in one specific area, and that got him fine-tuning his approach to a lot of things. And I would submit to you that he then started following those same types of thought processes and expectation management and personal development in many areas of his life. Obviously, getting an award in his field was an outpouring of that. And there's probably a couple other ways that you and I, or you probably don't even know about, that were like, you know what? Because you got me thinking this way, sure, it helped this, where we were talking about, but wow, it really helped me with this, that, and the other. It becomes like the three-legged stool where, you got two legs, you're going to fall over. You gave him a four-legged stool, and now it was way more solid. So I think that's just awesome to hear.
It is. It's one of those things. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I know people don't want to believe that. They say, well, I'm a good father or a good husband, but I'm not good here. If you take these steps in one thing, it'll go over into the next. And the cool thing about it is, honestly, I watched this guy. He just did a Facebook Live thing where he's actually mentoring other young people.
Wow.
So it's not just something where you do it yourself and it just stops there. It's more like being a river versus a reservoir. This guy's reaching out and trying to help other people. It's amazing how just having somebody step into your life and passing on information and feeding you and ask questions. People are good. I think people are good and they want to do better. When they know better, they do better. And they just sometimes don't know how.
Yep.
And if you can help somebody understand the how of something, they can go a lot further, and they will pass that value on. I can almost promise you that they will always pass the value on.
Well, I think that becomes like let's use that L word again, that legacy. Like, for instance, in that example with your work with him and impact with him, there's no way to know this, but what if you hadn't come into his life? He might have been doing fine. He might have been not kicked the dog and been mean to the family. He might have been okay and good, but because of this new mindset and plane of thinking plane that he got on, not only did he get in those levels, but then he did something else, which I think is just extraordinary. He's now giving back and paying it forward and serving other people, and now Lefford Fate is having a legacy ripple effect into people that you don't even know because of him. And now if you think about down the next line, what if some person that he's mentoring and making an impact now then takes it to that next level? So boy, we just don't know what kind of great impact that we can have in people's lives. But we just take 2 seconds and don't just smile and wave and click like on a Facebook or say, how's it going? Fine. Okay, good. Well, hey, how's the, game last weekend? Man, we got to stop and smell the roses and be that, go-giver like Bob Burke talks about.
Exactly. And, funny enough, Mike, there was a Tech Sergeant John Gunther back in 1986 was that person for me when I was going through.
Wow.
When, again, there's so much. You said it several times. We could talk for hours. In 1986, it was just like the Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times and the worst of times. And on 18 March 1986, my first son was born. On March 4th, 1986, my mother died. And I very nearly lost myself, if not for a guy by the name of Technical Sergeant John Gunther, who thought better of me. He saw the pain in me, but he also saw me in the pain. And he was there for me. And he talked to me. He wasn't my best friend. He was my actually, some of the stuff he said was kind of harsh. But
tough love.
Yes, and he did not let me fall when he could have easily. So I think back, and it's funny how the circle happens. He was one of the 12 outstanding airmen of the Air Force. He saved me. I was actually able to help save somebody else who ended up being one of the 12 outstanding airmen of the Air Force.
Wow, you talk about a legacy. That is so amazing. Now, I'm confident of this, but you have told him that over and over, correct?
I have not.
Really?
You know what? This is the crazy part. When I said it, that was the first time I recognized that.
Wow.
Right there.
And you know what? What did you say a few minutes ago about being in the picture frame?
You can't see the picture when you're not in the frame. You're in the frame.
Hypothetically, here's me, just you and me just talking on this interview. Yeah. And I'm just going, man, you probably had coffee with him and told him thank you over and over, and look at what I'm doing and look what I'm doing. You're like, you know what? It just hit me. So that's really interesting. You were in the wood. You couldn't see the forest for the trees because you were in there. Man, what a opportunity you have to speak positive and really bless this man's life when you do call him up or get together and say, let me explain something to you. I had an aha moment like today or last week, and let me tell you what happened, and back when this, and let me tell you what I've been doing since, and let me tell you about this guy that he made and this legacy that you poured into my life. Look at where it's going, and it's not stopping. That's amazing.
Well, I thanked him, but this whole thing about this particular thing, I promise you, it's the first time I've said it out loud.
Wow.
And I am going to call him because Chief Retired Gunther is still out there. We're great friends. He's a mentor of mine. But I did not tell him this story. And like I said, I just realized it.
Nice.
You do not know the gift that you just gave me.
Well, I'm happy to be part of it, and I just think, I really do think that these kinds of interviews and conversations, they become, mastermind kind of occurrences. You mentioned Think and Grow Rich, but the mastermind, we've got nothing to get out of this other than we're just talking about helping change lives and legacy and impact. And wow, you can speak into this man's life, and he is going to be so thrilled to see where things have gone, and now the pieces have moved together. And just as another kind of just crazy thought, what would happen if this young man that you said that you have spoken into and influenced his life, and your mentor, what if you guys kind of like got together, and whether it's by phone or Zoom or video or fly together, I mean, it would just be so neat to kind of create this kind of, network. You talk about 6 degrees of separation, and you talk about networking. That's the ultimate network. Look at what has been happening because you took time to see me in my pain and my pain in me. That's just neat. I'll be really, really interested to see how this develops. So that's so amazing.
I will promise you this. I'm going to call you when I have this conversation because it's going to happen soon. Thank you for this.
Well, I couldn't be more thrilled. What a wonderful, wonderful epiphany moment. I just love it. So thank you. So let's take a moment here just right now, Lefford, because this is a perfect point to say this or to ask this. If someone is listening and reading and hearing and experiencing your message and your impact and legacy, the things we've been talking about, and I wonder if there could be something that Lefford can help me with. What's the best way that someone can reach out to you in a clear, calm, and confidential manner, and just kind of see if there might be something that would resonate between the two of you, and see what there could be that way, and maybe they're dealing with a transition of their own. What is the best way that people can reach out to you?
Well, the best way is to look me up, LeffordFate.com. That's LeffordFate.com, and hit contact us or contact me, and I can reach out to you. Also, 850-319-8070 is my direct number. And this is why I'm giving you my direct number. As I said, I have lost friends in the military because somebody was not there for them. I don't want anybody to have to feel that way. So if you reach out to me, LeffordFate.com or 850-319-8070, I will answer. I will get you to somebody that has the help. And as far as coaching and figuring out what you want, who you are, and to be able to answer and to ask the right questions.
Yes.
Because if we're ready, if we get ready, we can handle anything. And I'd love to be able to come alongside somebody and help them get through it, because transitions are real, but we could get through them if we prepare for them.
Well, Lefford, it's just been a spectacular time talking with you, getting to know you, get to see your heart, and to see, you're not after big things for yourself personally. You're after big things to see what the people you can impact will go out there do in the world because of that, and you're leaving people better off for it. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.